Howdy Hexers, welcome to Hex Center. I'm Mokog. Today we're going to be going over a little bit of Coyotle lore. Now, I want to start this off with something from one of the characters in the game called Side of the Sun. Side of the Sun is a Coyotle shaman, a prominent character in Set 2, and a fantastic card to boot. But he has a quote that's in the lore that is absolutely fantastic at describing and kicking off the Coyotle. And here, this day, you see, is every day. No, I don't mean to say today is like another day. I mean to say that all days are the same day. All that is happening now has happened in the past and shall happen on days we cannot yet see. All are concerning the same time, right now. Today you and I were born, young one, and today we both shall die. And today we both shall exist for all eternity. And this really ties into one of the big conceptions of the Coyotle, because Coyotle really mess with the perceptions of time. Their perception of time is a non-linear form of time. In their minds, everything happens at once. And this really permeates an awful lot of what Coyotle lore is about. Even though there are prophecies that happen in Coyotle lore, it's really not necessarily time dependent. But, let's dig into the Coyotle themselves a little bit, and that'll really lay out some of the key aspects we'll want to take a look at when we're exploring Set 3 in the coming weeks. The Coyotle themselves, they are cunning nomadic wanderers of the Howling Plains, their home. The Howling Plains itself is located in between Adamath as well as the Feralroot Woods, just north of the area where the shin'hare used to live. And these nimble hunters, they generally only kill what they need to survive. They waste nothing, they don't waste anything from their kill, and they don't even waste their words. This sometimes makes them seem silent, but that's not really the case. They just waste not, want not. And of all the immortal races, they seem to have the strongest connection with the world beyond the physical. This is why they have very powerful shamans, and they're very tuned in to the natural world. But because of this close tie, they really don't have a concept of death either. Their idea is that you have a living dream and then the dream after the living dream. And their deep, deep ties to being able to raise spirits, which you'll see a lot of glimmering and glowing spirits in Coyotle art, that is a very key feature of them. And with their keen interest not only in spirits, they have one in stars as well. And they've meticulously mapped the skies, and they've turned them into patterns very similar to our zodiac. Not quite the same, but very similar. And they really want to know how the world of Entrath fits into the larger scheme of things. So in general, these types of interests kind of make Coyotle one of the most peaceful of the surface races. They're generally affable to humans and elves. They respect the orcs, though they don't have a huge amount of contact with the orcs themselves. They really admire the devotion of the orcs. They have a very antagonistic relationship with the shin'hare, mostly because the shin'hare would continuously launch attacks upon their people. The Coyotle are, even though they're peace-loving, they will fight to protect themselves, and they fought off quite a few shin'hare incursions until 1,000 years ago from current game time, the shin'hare were driven underground. So when the underworld incursion ended up happening, it was a real natural alliance between the humans, elves, and Coyotle, and then eventually the orcs once they looped the Venom into there. One of the big key central features, though, of the Coyotle, I would say, has to be Ozawa. And Ozawa is known as the Cosmic Elder. And Ozawa has some really great lore behind him. Pulling directly from the lore site, many call Ozawa the Cosmic Elder, but he waves that away, that lofty title, because calling him anything other than his name, he prefers to be called the Wanderer. And no one knows how old Ozawa is. The eldest of the Coyotle remember hearing tales of Ozawa's wanderings when they were pups, and he typically appears wherever there's a cluster of teepees at night, and somewhere in the Howling Plains he's sharing his stories and his wisdoms around a cooking fire, and then ends up just shuffling off before dawn, taking nothing with him but his meager possessions and leaving with the fellowship of his kid. This is very much kind of like a wanderer character, but he's also very much the knowledge character because he's very mysterious in how he moves around. People don't really understand how he's aging. They don't understand how he's informing, but they accept it because with Ozawa comes a lot of knowledge. And the reason they call him the Cosmic Elder is because the Coyotle people think that he walks among the stars. And something that plays very key to that is that when he comes back from the stars, he supposedly has brought with him 14 prophecies. And these are very important in Armies of Myth coming up and are very important in Coyote lore we'll find. He brought 14 prophecies with him, and we know 13 of them from Armies of Myth so far. And let's go through these. And these prophecies are known as signs. The first sign is, we know of the coming of the Diamond-Eyed, who took the land beneath the land and walked with borrowed flesh. And the second sign, our lands will see the coming of the Rockmen with their metal beasts of blood black, and they shall seek the end of all things. The third sign, a strange beast like a buffalo, with great long horns and eyes like glowing coals, will overrun the land in large numbers. The fourth sign, thin, hairless creatures of pure chaos will shatter an ancient soul that was long ago transformed. And then the fifth sign, the daughter of blood magic will emerge from the mouth of the mountain and speak to those who will not listen. The sixth sign, the land shall be crisscrossed with rivers of stone that make pictures in the sun. Seventh sign, the grass will absorb the cries of the dying and will turn brown and scorn the sun. The eighth sign, the folk of the skin of bark who hold their souls in acorns shall abandon their pacifism and seek the counsel of the elves. The ninth sign, the sovereign of the Cottontail shall once again demand the enslavement of the people. The 10th sign, a child from the east shall emerge in light, and the people of the sand will beg him for salvation. The 11th sign, wounds of a bruised world shall once again bleed fire. 12th sign, a hero shall fall, then rise again as a king who is not a king. The 13th sign, the battle between the infernal and the insane shall tear a hole in this world. And we don't yet know the 14th sign. So even though that there are whispers among the Coyotle, and especially also with the Coyotle's allies, that Ozawa may be the only mortal in existence that knows the true purpose of Hex, Ozawa has brought these prophecies to Entrath, and we're going to see this play out in the lore in some form or fashion. Like one aspect of the Coyotle from the Accidental Night is that they have a staging area where there's a ritual that must be done monthly, and if it's ever missed, supposedly that is going to be one of the heralds of the end of the world. We don't necessarily know if that's like the 14th sign, like maybe all these 13 things happen, there's bleeding, fiery wounds coming up from the planet, and then suddenly we miss this one ritual, and then everything goes to Kaputski. We don't exactly know everything yet, but one of the things we do know is even though the Coyotle themselves are one of the anthropomorphic races, they have a pretty engaging set of lore. They have this tied to the prophecy mechanic coming up in Armies of Myth, and they're really playing on this aspect of things coming in a future time space and integrating that into the lore. And the Coyotle are definitely worth paying attention to. They're going to have some really interesting themes in Army of Myth, and I think we're also going to enjoy seeing how the Coyotle evolve, and maybe even seeing how these prophecies laid out now here in Set 3 will play out in the future. So as always, I'd like to thank y'all for hanging out with me, talking a little bit about Coyotle lore, looking over the prophecies today. If you like what you see here today, go ahead and click the subscribe button below. Leave a comment here. Maybe go ahead and leave a comment on the 5 Shards article that we're attached to here, or anywhere else that we've placed this article. And as always, I'm Mokog. This is Hex Center. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.